got breaking news out of the NBA where the Celtics, Clippers, and Wizards are working on a trade that would send Kristaps Porzingis to Boston. That's according to The Athletic. Porzingis reportedly plans to trigger his $36 million player option for next season. Now, as part of the deal, the Clippers would acquire reigning sixth man of the year, Malcolm Brogdon. The Wizards would reportedly receive a trio of players including Danilo Gallinari, Marcus Morris, and Amir Coffey. Washington will also acquire the rights to the 30th overall pick in this year's draft. Let's welcome in our basketball insider, Bill Reiter. Now, Bill, if this deal does go down, it is a blockbuster trade. What's the overall reaction?
Yeah, well, what a fascinating trade. Makes sense for Washington as soon as they moved on from Bradley Beal. I mean, the reality was that is a rebuilding situation or a retooling situation if you talk to folks in that front office. Jenny, I'm a little surprised from Boston's perspective. I know things didn't end the way they wanted them to, but Malcolm Brogdon was sixth man of the year for a reason. This is a guy back a few years ago was in the 50, 40, 90 club. He's remarkably efficient. Didn't play a lot of minutes, but when he played, when he was healthy, he was really, really good for the Celtics. Now you get in Porzingis, a guy who also is excellent offensively. Again, when he's on the floor, especially his analytics are extremely impressive. And we know not a world-class defender, but shot blocking is something he brings to the table. I love it for the Clippers. I really do. I think Brogdon's a great addition, a great piece. For Boston, Jenny, I understand the attraction. I know the things that Porzingis does. But as soon as they decided to roll it back with Joe Mazzulla, which I think was the right decision with their young head coach, it felt to me like they really needed to stay put. They made Game 7 of an Eastern Conference Finals with this team. They largely the same team made the finals a couple years ago. I won't call it a panic move. I'll just call it a move for a Celtics team that already was on the brink of making another championship run this year. A really decisive decision to do something bold and to swap one great player. I think Brogdon's great. For a guy in Porzingis, he's only played 65 games once in the last 7 years. That was last season or more. A really great player when he's on the floor, but it's not a certainty that's always going to be the case.
I want to dive a little bit deeper into this. Celtics obviously shaking things up. So how would Porzingis fit with this Boston Celtics team as it is right now?
Yeah, it depends how they want to use him and how Mazzulla wants to use him. I mean, the guy can shoot, and he's excellent offensively. And again, if you get him some of the really, for lack of a better term, the really geeky, deep dive analytics, I mean, he's one of the top 20 to 30 players offensively in the NBA. So they want to bring him off the bench. They want to have him in the starting rotation. He's going to offer a lot of offensive firepower and a different profile than Brogdon. He's also an incredibly tall guy who blocks a lot of shots and gives you some rim protection. So what he's going to do is give you a lot of offense, potentially give you a lot of efficiency, all things Brogdon did, but he also gives you a different profile in terms of protecting the rim and doing some different things. But again, this is a Celtics team that has Jason Tatum. They have, presumably, if they can get him back, Jaylen Brown. They have Marcus Smart. I mean, they are a well put together team. And so Porzingis is either supplemental if you think he's a fine player, or a big 2.5, the half in that equation if you believe that his ceiling that we've seen in the past is something he can recreate, especially in Boston, where there's a lot more guys that defenses have to worry about, giving Porzingis a lot more opportunities to be offensively impactful.
You just said Porzingis is one of the top 20 to 30 players offensively in the NBA. This also means it could be another payday for him. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So as part of this deal, the report is that he's gonna opt into this deal at a minimum, and this is an opportunity to go to a team like Boston where you presume, again, if Joe Mazzulla and most people around the NBA think he will figure out, get his sea legs in his second year as a head coach, can maximize what Kristaps Porzingis can do. Porzingis could be in a position to make a whole bunch of money if he just signs, he opts into that one-year deal. There's always the opportunity that he could obviously agree to an extension of some kind, a new deal in Boston. But you're right, he's going to have the chance not just to win, and I'm sure that's important to Porzingis, to be part of a high-powered offensive machine that is going to highlight, if he can stay healthy, what Porzingis can do and drive up his value in the market if he is available next year.
Right now, the Celtics are the favorites to win the East. You know, they've already found success the last few seasons. So where do the Celtics kind of land in the East hierarchy now?
It's what's really interesting. They were the betting favorites before this trade. They're the betting favorites after this trade. And I don't want to sleep on Malcolm Brogdon and how impactful and how good he is offensively. If you just go and you look at his stats in the box score last year, he was fine, right? But didn't play a lot of minutes. His Brogdon's per 36 minute per game numbers, right? If he gets the minutes that a starter would get, which he did not get, that guy's a really good player. So to me, you've swapped one excellent player who missed some time for another excellent player who missed some time last year. I don't think anything, at least in terms of Vegas and the stats, and if you hold a ticket for the Celtics, has changed. They're the most talented team in the NBA. Even beyond their big two, they have really excellent players as role players or as third-level stars. Right? The third guy on the team are really impressive. And I know it changes some of the things they can do. These are different basketball players. But, Jenny, it's not like picks one out and a great player came in. A really good player who's supplemental went out, and a really good player who's probably going to be supplemental came in.
Boston right behind Denver to win the NBA title. Looking at next year's odds, I want to talk a little bit more about Malcolm Brogdon. He gives the Clippers another proven scorer there. How does he fit out in LA?
So, yeah, so let me explain this 50, 40, 90 just for folks who don't know. It's basically a season where you shoot 50% or better from the field, 40% or better from the three-point line, 90% or better from three. This has happened about a handful of times in the history of the NBA. Guys named Stephen Curry, guys named Kevin Durant, Reggie Miller, Steve Nash. You're talking almost exclusively about future or current Hall of Famers. And the guy on that list is Malcolm Brogdon. He's a great three-point shooter. He can get his own offense off of the dribble. He's an incredible shooter. He's remarkably efficient. So if you can, again, we're talking about ifs here, if a guy like Kawhi Leonard can be healthy and a guy like Paul George can be healthy, and you have to double one of those guys or pay attention to both in a serious way, if Brogdon's open, that guy's basically almost 50-50 to knock down his shots, even three-point shots. I think career 44%. So it is automatic offense if he's in a situation where he's going to be able to get open looks and good looks, and that's certainly going to happen with the Clippers team. He is an offensive machine. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the NBA, that Sixth Man of the Year award notwithstanding, and it's a big injection of offense for a Clippers team. But again, Jenny, I keep saying the word if Paul George and Kawhi Leonard can be healthy.
Yeah, and if there's questions about Paul George being on the trade block, so what does this trade mean for the Clippers? As far as Paul George goes, you know?
You're 100% right. That report came out in the last 12 hours. Sources told me that at least there's been a little kicking to the tires, and sometimes hard to distinguish when GMs are throwing out ideas, right? When they're versus like they really are motivated to do this. But yes, Paul George is someone who hasn't been able to stay healthy, and if the Clippers decide that moving on from him makes sense, you do have in Malcolm Brogdon. He's not a superstar like Paul George, but there's a lot of offense there, even before you get whatever you get in return for PG. So it's either Kawhi, Paul George, and Malcolm Brogdon is a nice mix, but it's also, I think, one of those things that allow, if the rumors are true, and they're probably just early stages, if the Clippers are serious about at least exploring Paul George's value, and that were to lead to a trade, obviously things would come back in return, and I think they'd want some immediacy there because Kawhi Leonard has a window now, but you've got a lot of offense from Malcolm Brogdon if he's put in the right situation.
So we talked about the Celtics. We've talked about the Clippers. What do we make of the Wizards and what they're doing here? Is it full tank mode at this point?
Yeah, and I think it's part of the reason this deal got done is that the person who runs the front office now for the Wizards, Michael Winger, came from the Clippers, right? So there's a relationship, there's trust, they can get a deal done. Everybody in the NBA knew. We suspected that they were going to do a total reset, that was the reason that the new front office came into that job and took over that organization that struggled for so long. And once Beal went out, this was going to happen. Porzingis is a nice player. It may be a really important player, Jenny, when he's on a team that can maximize his skills. That wasn't Washington with Bradley Beal. It's certainly not going to be without Bradley Beal. So you get rid of that massive contract and you get the opportunity to bring in some draft picks, bring in some other players. But really for DC, for the Wizards, they are interested in a reset. It is a rebuild, even though GMs hate it when you use that term. They are starting over. They're clear in the books. And Porzingis, though he's a very good player, and again, I think can be great, really impactful in the right situation, that was never going to be Washington, D.C. once Beal went away.
Bill Reiter, thank you so much for your time as we take a look at this potential blockbuster trade going on between the Celtics, the Clippers, and the Wizards. They would be sending Porzingis to Boston. As we take a look at these important dates in the association, we're just one day away until the NBA draft in New York. Victor Wembanyama expected to go #1 overall to San Antonio. That's taking place tomorrow at 8 p.m. And as we continue looking forward to next season, the first day of free agency starts June 30th. And the Summer League, you can find that July 7th through the 17th.